All right, everybody, we are back again for season 2 of the Coach's Compass. Again, don't know what episode it is because we just continue to roll, continue to bring on cool guests from all over the world. It's your boy, Coach Coop, reporting live from the US of A. Now, remember, hit that like, subscribe, comment button down below so we continue to have this thing grow, continue to bring on cool guests from all across the world. And we're here with Coach Erik Hernandez. He's a father, husband, coach, associate director of strength and conditioning, Olympic sports for UNC Chapel Hill. Coach, thank you and welcome to the Coach's Compass.
Thank you for having me.
Man, so what got you started in the field? I mean, I feel like there's a common question we all ask all strength and conditioning coaches, but we all have a different path that we go down to get to where we're at now. So what got you into strength and conditioning?
Yeah, I think it's always cool to hear different stories because you also start to hear a lot about like the same carryover, right? Or the same crossover that we all have a lot of similarities. So I think that's important because sometimes we want to talk about is how we're different because we do this or that and the other, and we're really probably all the same or similar. So, as a college athlete, I was a thrower and I'm only 5'7", and I used to be about 50 pounds heavier. So you can imagine that, I wasn't the most competitive thrower. I was pretty good for our region for certain things. I got to compete at NCAA's by my senior year. But the whole point of this was lifting maximized my genetic potential. I wasn't going to have it height wise. I wasn't going to have it natural genetics wise. But working my absolute butt off in the weight room, I saw results that I wouldn't have got just by being halfway in. So, I saw basically what the capabilities were. So that was huge. And when it came natural to me, but I never wanted to be a strength coach. I originally wanted to go into a PT. I wanted to be I started as a PT major, and I thought I really wanted to do that. And then I actually studied to take the MCAT. I took the MCAT. I failed it terribly. And the next day I started talking to our strength coach at Loyola University in Chicago, which was where I went. And he's like, well, why don't you become a strength coach? And I'm like, well, that sounds like a kind of a cool job. And then I started interning at Loyola as an undergrad, helping with, my classmates. And then I did an internship at Niles North High School. And then once I graduated, I went to Arizona State and I did an internship with their football program for 3 months before coming to UNC as a full-time intern for 2 semesters. And then I went to Tulsa for a short while, another 3 months for working with their football, basketball, whoever was home or whoever was at Tulsa for the summer. And then I've been back full-time at UNC ever since 2011. And this is, going on 13th, 14th year-ish, depending on if you want to count my intern year here. And I work with our men's lacrosse team, our golf teams, and our volleyball teams now. But at some point, I've worked with the majority of our sports here at UNC.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, to be at one place since 2011, but talk about the beginning parts, right? That's a lot of different movement, right? From Loyola to all over the place to end up at UNC, then go to Tulsa, then back to UNC. And it's kind of similar to another coach that we had on right before you, Coach CD down in Mercer, right, with men's basketball team. So he had this question that we like to ask our guests. What would we like them to ask our next guest? So this question comes from him because I feel like it's going to be a pretty in-depth question that you can answer super well. How are you coaching and programming for your athletes you work with, as far as as far as in your setting, like what setting you're given, and then what's your long-term development model, and how do you intro a freshman into training? A lot of parts there, I know. So
let's start from the beginning. How do you intro? And I think the intro will kind of take care of it. The rest. So the biggest thing that I want to do when I first. So I just presented on this actually a little bit at the high school, one of the high school with the guy I used to work with at the high school. Now is North. We were at Evanston High School, and I always think it's important for me, like with how much information there's out there, to like have something that kind of guides you. And one of my favorite images that probably so many people have seen is this Vermeil's hierarchy. In Coach Vermeil's hierarchy, like the pyramid has at the base is work ethic, and that's probably like where I start with all the freshmen is, do they understand like what our goals are? One, be very clear about like the words. A friend of mine, Brian Peters, who's awesome. He helps me a lot with kind of some of this mindset type stuff, and he has a business, Breathing Performance, and he talks about like getting ahead of words, and that's what I'm clear on with especially the younger generation is, here's the reason why this is important. Here's the reason why I'm going to be hard on you. Here's the reason why, like, I'm going to hold you accountable for small things like cleaning up your stuff. for standing here when I go over an exercise. When I go over an exercise, are you paying attention and actually looking at me, making eye contact? Are you having a conversation? When I break down into the lift, are you asking me immediately, what did I just say? There's multiple things going on there, and it has nothing to do with my impatience. It has everything to do with just them taking stock, because you can get hurt in the weight room, or you can just not perform better from the weight room. So if that's the case, well, we're wasting both of our time, and neither one of us have much time to waste anymore. So, that's very important to like just start with the base of the pyramid. It's like, are we having those conversations straight up, so that when I tell them, no, this is wrong, it's not, no, this is wrong because I don't like you. It's no, this is wrong because it could lead to something else. So getting ahead of words and understanding that work ethic, is invaluable for our program. It doesn't matter if it's a high school kid I'm working with, a general population person I'm working with, or one of, volleyball, men's lacrosse, or golfers. Like, they're all going to have the same conversation. Like, if we're going to be here, we might as well do things the right way, for the performance outcome, for when you're older and you've actually learned something, not just gone through a program and then it's just like, we lifted. And then also just like, there's some discipline things that they're going to really help later on, and we can come back to. So I spend a lot of time just being clear about that. And then how I kind of program, or, my long-term development model, obviously, like, thinking is very health oriented. I was a college athlete who had a back problem, had a pretty bad back injury. I was a high school athlete who had a pretty bad back injury. And as I moved on to my professional life and I had kids, my back was still kind of bothering me. It would go ebb and flow, but I realized, like, a lot of these things are just health related. How am I building my training based around my health? How am I building my nutrition and my lifestyle around my health? Because as soon as your health starts to go, like, you're going to pay for it elsewhere, whether it's your relationship, whether it's your coaching, whether it's your performance, whatever it is. And so that's the same approach I take with the athletes. It's like, how can I build this program for your optimal health? It doesn't mean that, like, we're substituting out for, the main lifts. It just means, like, we're going to take an approach that has a long-term health outcome on it. If you're not squatting through a full range of motion and you just want to add weight on, okay, well, there's the ramifications for cutting, the foundation. We have to make sure we get that right first, especially freshmen, when it's like, all right, every freshman comes in and they want to tell you what their high school PR was. And I tell them, like, up front, like, I don't really care what it is, because you're going to learn, we say it like the Carolina way, which really is a way that, any good strength coach does it. It's just, we put a little, like, we make it about our program, right? So they have some sense of pride, and like, this is how we're doing it here at Carolina. And you're going to go through it like we're going to do it the Carolina way. And it's full range of motion, it's rep discipline, it's posture, and it's speed of technique when you have to, it's positional. And then you find out that, like, those high school PRs are 30 to 50% actually heavier than they should be. But that gives me an opportunity to build in these stopping points and saying, nope, but it's not progressed yet. You have to earn every step along the way. Just like you have to earn the next, like, training phase, you have to earn, the right to add weight on and things like that. And I think more and more the freshman 3 weeks, or really any athlete, first 3 weeks is like all in eval. As much as I keep learning different assessments and things like that, I just realized you really don't, one, you need an initial assessment to kind of have an idea where to go, but then you need 3 weeks of the most basic program, depending on the team, so that you can really actually see where they're at when fatigue happens, when they have a bad night's sleep, when they, tweaked something 2 days before, like what athlete are you really working with? And it takes, like, more than just one session to do that. So I tell people, like, just got to be patient for those first 3 weeks. We got to work on culture, mentality, discipline, all those things. But I'm also working on seeing out where you're at. Trust me, we're going to go hard, but we got to figure out where we're at, especially when it comes to a new group. So, my long-term thing, all right, it has to be around health. It has to be around discipline. It has to go back to that pyramid of a good foundation of training and not skipping any steps, because the foundation being huge is going to make the upper stuff, really, like the upper parts, the cooler, the faster, all this, like, splashy stuff you see, make it possible. But it doesn't work the other way around. And if it does, well, you're not really getting that much out of it. It's more so like it's just for show. Right? I always ask ourselves, are we really doing what we think we're doing? And I have no problem looking at my program and being like, I'm not doing what I think I'm doing. Like, yeah, we're trying to work on this explosive jump, but I mean, you can put a piece of paper underneath that jump. Like, that's about it. Like, and so who cares? Let's go back and let's really rethink what we're doing. So I'm not sure if that covered everything.
I think you did.
Okay, cool.
Now, I mean, you talk about the explosive jump. Now you talk about getting into your program and looking at the pyramid instead of doing it the revert, flipping it over and looking at all the cool stuff that all these kids like you said, you get these kids that come in from their freshman year. Nowadays, kids are a lot different, right? Where they have Instagram, they have TikTok, they have all these things that they're seeing at their hands. How do you get them to understand, that there's a fundamental level that you had to start off with, especially you talking about your PRs are usually 30 to 50% off. And that's just, you've seen that over time. But also on top of that, you're using your social media for a platform as your own. I see a lot of you UNC coaches are killing it on the UNC on the platforms with using your social medias in a great way. How do you guys use it in a way to continue to teach other coaches too and other athletes and get them to understand that, hey, there's a breakdown to all of this?
I was really hesitant to start social media, honestly. Like some of my biggest mentors are people who are very, and I wouldn't say against, but just like not self promoters at all. So like when I first started working in this, and I had a couple friends that were like, "You just got to do it. Like it'll help you," And then I had some others who are like, "You don't need to do that." So it was like this kind of, I was like totally torn when I started putting stuff out. And the initial reasons I wanted to start putting things out was like, I'm working with some pretty cool athletes, but we're not doing anything remarkable. We're doing the fundamentals really well. And I'm like, I think that's important I was working with a lot of youth athletes too. Is like, it's important for them to see like that you can be a really good athlete at the highest level and do very basic stuff really well. And that's good enough, because I would always hear, well, do you know so-and-so does this? So-and-so does this. And I just got lucky enough to be here to where I'm like, well, I have a so-and-so. So why don't I show you what so-and-so does? But then was cool reinforcement on top of that was I'd get message from parents. I love seeing my son or daughter. Like, it's so cool. Like, thank you for taking care of them. And then the kids would be like, hey, Erik, how come I can't get, posted up there? And then ended up being this, like, everyone was feeding into like this positivity of it all. And so there's always going to be haters and things like that, but it's fine. But it ended up being a pretty cool thing where I felt others were appreciative of it. And then it's like drawing attention to our department. So like I try to use it to benefit others. I'll never sit there and say like, oh, it's not, it doesn't benefit me. Sure it does. But like, I try to, when I get those opportunities because of that, I try to make, positive influences as much as I can. And, it's not all about me. It's about, how I can use that, leverage that to help others, because we have this expansive network. It shouldn't be just to take, or to judge. How can I get some opportunities to reach out and help others, or draw more attention to the good things that our staff and university is doing.
Yeah, you talk about an expensive network. Who do you continue to learn from and kind of help yourself continue to grow within this industry and see some of the nuances? You've been in it long enough that you've seen technology come along the way too, with new lasers, the GPSs, and all these different types of things. Who's helping you out?
Oh man, I'm pretty lucky. I got a pretty small network of people I go to pretty often. I'm not afraid to like put myself in front of the judgmental eyes of my mentors. So I, at here, I have not judgmental eyes. That makes them sound judgmental, but like allow them to give me feedback straight ahead. Jonas Ration, our men's basketball strength coach here, is one of the best strength coaches in the country, in my opinion. I learned so much from him. His mentor, Coach Al Vermeil, I'm lucky enough to be able to, message him and get feedback. Then, Coach Mike Catone in Chicago. I worked for Ryan Reynolds when he was at Arizona State, and now he's at the Chiefs. These are all people that like are in the back of my mind that either I can reach out to them directly, or they're kind of like my filter for like, why were you doing that, Erik? Like I'm constantly kind of looking at my stuff and being like, why are you doing that? And, Derek Hansen, I'm pretty close with as well. He really has helped my development and speed and conditioning. And it's really easy to look at like a bunch of people and want to say like, I need to learn from them all. But it's better to kind of like find the people who give you the best system and kind of filter and stick with them, because then you can actually like, you don't get spread so thin. And then like, health wise, like, the Poliquin Group people, the Kilo Strength Society staff, and them, they do a great job. Those are kind of like the people I've been drawn from the most. And, like Ed Williams and like, they're the ones that I can kind of send the most amount of stuff. And then bunch of coaches too. Sean Foster at Georgetown does a great job. Bree Brown at Miami, Alan Bishop helps me out as well. And Christian Carter at JMU. Like, those are just some people that I can just reach out to. And then obviously the people here, like I'm constantly asking my coworkers, like, hey, I don't know what the heck this is. Can you help me with this? So like, exposing myself as much as possible. I know what I'm good at, but I know I have a lot to learn on a regular basis. So how do I keep like putting myself in vulnerable positions that allow someone else to like make a comment and allow to give feedback, and then figure out how it integrates into my coaching personality and program naturally.
I mean, that's a tough thing though. You're a guy that's been in the industry for a pretty long time, right? Longer than some of us that are kind of just now starting off in it. Have you ever gotten a feeling of, imposter syndrome? And then
Yeah.
has there ever been a part that like it's tough to actually ask others for help and look at your work and critique it without feeling like, damn, am I actually doing things correctly?
100%. I still get it on a regular basis. Like, am I, are we really doing the right thing? And like, who am I? Like, am I talking about this too much? And like, cause like I said, I have those people that are literally like right behind my head. Like that when something like words leave my mouth, I'm like, oh shoot, like they might not approve that. And it's actually kind of like a thing that I've been told before I need to stop doing so much of, like, stop referencing people so much. Stop doing like, just be your own self. I'm like, yeah, I know, but like, it's not, I'm just so lucky to have had like so many people that have helped me. And I never want to be that person that's just like, doesn't give back. But so that's like a big thing. Is like I keep that person in the back of my head, and for good and bad. For good, for like keeping me in check. Bad sometimes because I second guess myself a little too much. But at the end of the day, like those people I've picked that have helped me a lot, like it's because I want to be even better. And that I keep going back to, like, what are my goals? My goal is to be the best I can be for who is around me. And you're not going to do that by getting comfortable and just, self-validating. Like, yeah, I'm doing it right. I'm doing it right. Because there's always something you can improve on. And it's like, the strongest people I've seen, and like I've met some pretty cool people that like, they're always available to listen. And then they decipher what they have to do. And I think you always need to know, like, who you're asking what questions for. Like, there's some people that they may know something about like certain discipline, but I'm not going to ask them about that. I'm going to ask them what I know that they're most comfortable in, or where they can kind of give me the most feedback, or I'm the weakest in of it. So I'm trying to be specific about like what I'm asking somebody.
I don't want to miss an opportunity to also talk about your Hernandez health and performance. What is that all about, and how do you balance that out with working in the team sector and also having your own thing with health with that?
Yeah, so it's I think the main thing is like my online student athlete type, or like former student athlete alumni program, and that's what is not too hard to manage it, right? Because it's just something that I do on a regular basis as it is, and my wife helps me with managing a lot of that. So like it's not like it's just like writing another program or so. It's not something that where I'm like having so much administrative duty to do it. And like I said, I'm like really lucky to have my wife that works alongside with me on that. But no, it started because I had student athletes that were graduating, and they're like, I want to keep working out with you, but like I'm living in San Francisco, I'm living wherever it is. Like, how do we still keep working with you? And then it started off with some like bad, Excel sheets. Then it got a little bit different. Then I got on Team Builder, and then now it's like where they got their friends coming with me, and it's really cool because it just like I was doing this stuff anyway. But the problem was I found with it's like I want to help people all the time, and if you give people programs for free, they're not going to do it. It's going to waste your time. I don't have much time to waste. So I figured out like I had to put a monetary value to it. So like so that they'd have to invest. So if they didn't do it, they'd feel guilty that they paid, or they wouldn't feel too guilty because they were happy to like help me out because I helped them out. But it would guilt them into like, all right, I'm just going to commit to it. I'm just going to train because I paid them already. So at least I'm going to do it. And then by the end of 12 weeks, they're like, hey, actually, I'm pretty happy that I made that investment, because if I wouldn't have, like, I probably would have found a reason to only work out once a week, every other week or something like that. So it's not too much to balance. I mean, there's nights and weekends, and when I'm not with UNC, and that's where I make sure that priority is like UNC is what I'm here for. Like, that's my full time, and then that stuff on the side. Like as an intern, like I was always working all the time, right? So it changed anything to me, right? It didn't change much. That it would just be like, oh, I'm just going to work the extra hours. It wasn't like I got the full-time job so that I could work less. It was just so that I could, and then this thing on the side, like it was just, I'm not going to lie, I have a stay-at-home wife who works her butt off with our kids, and our kids go to a farm school. So I'm going to do everything I can in my power to make sure that they still do that. And so if that means me working at night, well, then, well, that's what I'm here for.
So what are your tools and like tactics that you use to kind of set some boundaries and stop burnout in such a hard industry? I mean, you talk about like, hey, you're doing everything you can because you have a stay-at-home wife and your kids working at a farm, but there is a time, like you said, that like it can become a lot that you feel like And again, with the imposter syndrome and all that stuff too, how do you deal with it?
It's funny, like I just having this conversation. Our gymnastics coach is awesome, and she's trying so hard to like really teach the young ladies like this mindset of like you're gonna get stronger and things like that, and like you can handle so much, and don't have this mentality like, oh, somebody needs to be doing something for me. And I also had another friend that was in special forces, and he's like, even though afterwards I want to keep giving him free stuff because I know he did for our country. He's like, I'm entitled to nothing. So these like two like instances, like this person who should be entitled to so much is entitled to nothing, and this woman who's helping these young ladies out, like about what they can handle, right? And her and I were talking about like it's not about like the Bruce Lee quote, like it doesn't get easier, like right. It you just get stronger essentially, right? That's been a big thing for me is just like my mindset, right? When is it supposed to get easier? Hell no. Like my kids are growing up. Like it's just what's my mindset around it? Am I taking it as like, oh, damn, I have to get like, well, that's the wrong mindset. And one, I need to fix something with myself. So like, why not just enjoy and live to the fullest? And I've been probably like, that was probably a shift maybe I had to make. Spent so much time on trying to get my technical knowledge up, and then how did I get kind of my like spiritual, like leadership type knowledge up that would make me just reference things differently. Because it's funny, like me and my wife will sit there and be like, remember when we thought we were tired when we were younger? And then we have two kids, and then like we're going all day, and like we get like a 30 minutes to like talk to each other before we go back and start all over again. But I wouldn't change it for the world. But it's just like it's all perspective. If you think like you don't have any work-life balance, well then like okay, then just move on, find something else for you to do, or change your perception, like, and realize like the windows that you have, maximize them. The one thing I need to get better at is putting the damn phone down. So sometimes I'm really good at it. Like I take off my watch, I switch out to my other watch, and I put my phone down. Does that happen off as much as I want? No, but it's mine. I try to be mindful of it so that I do build in those things. Saturday is like the one day I try not to work when I can. And like, that's like we call it like Dadder Day, where I'm just with the kids and family all day, and I just try to ignore work because usually Sunday I got something to do, or vice versa. So it's mindset, it's perspective, it's carving out the times when you get there, and then it's like evaluating, like, well, what else would I do? And if it's not better, then get rid of that and fix your perspective.
I love the mindset, coach. I love that right there. Before we get out of here, though, what is something you would like us to ask our next guest? Don't know who the next guest is, but what would something you'd like us to ask them?
Oh man, as you said that to me, I was like, I should probably think about what I need to ask somebody else, and I didn't. I was too busy talking. I didn't think of that enough. I'd say I'd be interested. I'd be interested in a coach telling you what's something in the past 3 weeks that they've done wrong, or maybe in the past year that they've done wrong, and they've changed because of it. And for me, I have no problem admitting like what I did wrong. Like when I have a very busy day, not that anyone doesn't. Basically, I go from like I have to like change personalities from like different teams that I'm going with sometimes.
Right.
Like I have a men's lacrosse team and 56 guys that are rowdy. Then I have a women's golf team. They're sweet and quiet. And then a men's golf team. They're kind of like they like to get after a little bit, but not so much. And then I have a volleyball team. They like to get after it, but they're different personalities. And so I would find myself like not being able to change personalities sometimes quick enough. And maybe I was a little too direct with some group in a way that someone could handle, but someone couldn't. So I needed to basically realize how to slow down my processing a little bit better and see who's in front of me and like breathe for an extra second before I would react with maybe too much emotion here versus less there type of thing. So for me, it's been like slowing down my processing and trying to be a better communicator when I have a dynamic environment that happens around me. And then being very clear with like those around me as well. And that's what the big getting ahead of words was. Like even my coworkers, like it's funny. We have a 4-person office, and I'll be a certain personality when the floor is going, and then when I'm done, like I need to like just come down. So like I'll go in the office and I'll be like dead quiet, and I'll just be like at my desk, working on something. And I even had to tell my coworkers, I'm like, hey, I'm not like ignoring you guys. I'm just trying to like come down, but I don't want it to come off as like I'm just an a-hole coming in there nice and doing this on the floor or crazy, and then I'm just in my shell. And so it's just something that it's good to learn from. Like I learn more from my mistakes than I learn from my successes. So I'd be interested in some other mistakes that people have learned from, and most recently. And don't be like I worked too hard and then I learned to not work as hard or to whatever. I want to hear something that's authentic.
I like that because I mean, a lot of us run into that where we had to put on different hats for different groups that they're working with, even in the private sector, different personal training clients you have, different youth groups you have. Like you got to put on a different hat. Like I got to be super energetic with one. I got to be super like nice and cuddly with another one. Like it's all different types of ones that you have to work with. And then, like you said, you get that time where you're on a super high. And you're like, I just need to go in the back room. Let me just be quiet for a little bit. Like I'm not trying to be dick to anybody, but I just need to just let me get back in my zone and let me be cool, and then we'll get back to rolling. It's interesting that you say something like that. But Coach, I really appreciate you coming on today and dropping knowledge, is talking real about what it's like to be in this industry and be in this field and how you navigated through it all. And I thank you a lot, man, and I look forward to dropping this episode and all our listeners being able to hear what you had to say.
Cool. Well, I appreciate your time, and the format was fun.
Awesome, man.
Thanks.